Hi, I'm Jamie. This is Dead Dodge Garage, and today we're growing our own revival projects in-house and passing the savings on to you. This is my wife's 1966 Dodge Coronet station wagon, and there's a good chance you don't even know that because I haven't done a video on it since July of 2022, when I probably had 1,300 subscribers, something like that. It's been in the background of many, many videos. I've shown it on film a few times, but I haven't featured it or done anything with it really in a really long time. For like the entire winter, this one frond of blackberry bush was threatening to eat the car. Well, now it's doing it. Many people have noticed in the background that this thing's looking kind of sad. Yeah, it's not ideal. So I'll give you the Cliff Notes version of the story on this thing. It used to belong to my friend Connor's aunt many, many years ago. For a long time, it belonged to a cool surfer chick out in Westport, Washington, and it would often have surfboards on the roof. Eventually, she needed a smaller car to take to Alaska, which never actually happened, but I swapped my pretty sweet 1975 Beetle for this car, and I want to say some cash. At the time, it was an original 318 poly-powered car with drum brakes, a bad brake booster so it would barely stop at all. It didn't run very well, it had various electrical issues. The list was long, but look at it. It's cool. That was probably in 2012 or maybe 2013. Anyway, I owned the car for 3 hours, and then I sold it to my friend Drew. In 2014, my wife moved back from California. At the time, this was my only working car. I did have a crappy rusty truck as well, but this was our daily driver. At some point, Drew wanted to own this and no longer wanted to own the wagon, so a deal was made. Of course, now we've got both of them, so I guess I won eventually. So it's spent some time as a bandwagon, and it's got the stickers to prove it. But from that point forward, it was Mrs. Jamie's daily driver. And daily drive it she did. This thing did 55 miles round trip every single day to her bank job in Westport, Washington. Eventually that situation became untenable. There were a couple issues. Issue number one, it leaked power steering fluid at a truly alarming rate. I've run more Lucas power steering stop leak through this thing than, I don't know, maybe anyone else. And then our daughter came along. Well, she was cooking for a while. And eventually the baby belly running into the steering wheel here prevented Mrs. Jamie's feet from reaching the pedals. So the car got parked for a while. Didn't I say this was going to be the Cliff Notes version of the story? Oh, this headliner was really, really nice. Last time I looked at it. So the car was parked. Our daughter was born, but it was never really driven again. It just kind of sat in front of our house. And one Christmas, as we often do, we realized we were a little short on funds. So we sold the wagon to a friend. Okay, ironically enough, and I've only just realized this, the same friend also owned that Cherokee. I don't know. Anyway, when our friend Mike bought the car, he had some ideas. For one thing, he wanted to make that Coronet 440 badge literal. You see, people always confuse that as being an engine displacement marker, but it's not. It's just a trim level. Now, of course, being his friends, but also the only local shop specializing in classic Mopars, my brother and I were conscripted to handle the swap, among other upgrades. This is a motorhome 440. It also looked really nice when I put it in here, and it doesn't anymore. Okay, this is a first. I haven't had any evidence of critters on any of my parked cars before. Great, just great. No battery hold down. That's not a very Jamie thing to do. God, this is just sad. It did not look anything like this 2 years ago. Don't let things sit. Anyway, this is a motorhome 440. Nothing special at all. We pulled it out of a local junkyard. They did the hard part and removed it from the motorhome. It's fine, it's a 440, so it makes torque and all that. Not exactly a screaming horsepower machine, although I have executed some pretty impressive passes in this thing. Way back when we delivered the finished car, my brother was driving this thing with, I think, a 360 under the hood. Yeah, he couldn't keep up. We also installed power discs in one of these retrofit type booster and master assemblies. And yeah, there's another thing that just looks like total garbage now. That sucks. A giant front sway bar, always part of our handling upgrade program. Very nice. Oh, Drew had this dual exhaust system made for it. We just adapted that to the big block. Sounds pretty awesome, actually. He also contributed these wheels. I think Mike bought new tires, but I don't remember. None of this is looking too hot anymore. Anyway, the point is, we built it for Mike, and it ran awesome, drove awesome, and has the best brakes of anything in the fleet. Okay, the 2018 Challenger might be a little bit better, but everything else, this thing has amazing brakes. I stand by that system. It's just factory later Mopar front discs and that booster setup. It works. Oh, I didn't finish the ownership history trail. Basically, when we were selling our last house, Mike was trying to buy a house and needed to sell this wagon as part of his down payment deal. There was actually a possibility that he would buy our house and then we would work this into the deal, and that didn't happen. Basically though, the moment we actually had the money burning a hole in our bank account from selling our house, we took some out to buy this thing for Mike. And then it became Mrs. Jamie's summer daily driver once again. Unfortunately, at this point, it needs some things, and she didn't drive it at all last year. Okay, I guess that brings us to now. So what I'm gonna do is see if this thing still runs. I moved it to this spot like, well, it hasn't been an entire year. And I did used to periodically fire the thing and just make sure it still did engine stuff, but it's been a long time. So I strongly suspect the battery's dead. Let's find out. Yeah, the headlights are on. Okay, jump box then. Of course, if it does run, I kind of need to move this Cherokee out of the way. So many things. It looks way worse from this angle. Oh, losing keys has been a recurring theme in this car's history. The door keys are long gone. The ignition's been changed out twice now, I think. Mrs. Jamie allegedly lost the keys next to the chicken coop like 2 years ago. So now it's got a new ignition and a new gas cap again. My old friend. I have gotten a lot of use out of this thing, and I've only let it get soaked by rainwater like 4 times. The USB power's dead, but otherwise, it's going strong. Yeah, that battery really wasn't very old, but it's just straight up 0 volts at this point. Yay, that's a start. Entry definitely has to happen from this side. Yep. Oh yeah, the only major rust area in the wagon is here. Yeah, it's on the list. We'll talk about the list in a little bit. First, let's see if it wants to run. Yeah, okay. Okay. Huh. I still had the headlights on. I turned the headlights off and it cranks just fine. The odometer's been stuck at 30,000.9 for like a really long time. You can probably tell it's kind of cranking over slowly. So slowly, it almost sounds like a normal Mopar starter, but that's one of those like Dakota mini starter things. Oh! All right. Nice. Oh, good. The belt still squeals. I shut it off because I was smelling gas very strongly. That was a good idea. People always complain about me putting fuel filters up on top of the engine. I don't mind it, but this hose is like crispy now. Not surprising. We'll go ahead and replace every fuel hose and the filter to the list. Admire the HEI module here. This is on a plate made for me by a fabricator friend. He did a run of these for me at one point. I used to have the module there. I never cleaned the grease off the firewall. Fetching the screwdriver. Yeah, this was definitely tight, you know, last time I touched it. We'll be replacing all of these rubber hoses because they shouldn't sound like that when you hit them. Yeah, that was definitely brand new too. Anyway. All right. No more leaking. I think we're good there. You know, still charges. Yay. Is it seriously just gonna idle? No, it's not. This car, like most of our drivers, has an Edelbrock carburetor. And one issue I've had with this thing year after year when it sits is gunk gathering down in the main jet wells below the main jets. The idle fuel pulls from there. Little bits of that gunk will jam up the openings that the idle fuel should go through, and then it doesn't idle anymore. I've had to clean it out several times because of that. I was hoping against hope that it would just be fine this time, but of course it's not. Oh, the squealing alternator belt has been a constant feature ever since this thing was put together. I seem to recall like a chunk of surgical hose jammed in here to keep it from rattling. Ah! Part of the build sheet's in here. Dang it. Just enough to read WW1. Nice. Look at this. It's the dealer service placard inside the glove box. It was filled out from new until 1970, and then it was in storage, and then it was next filled out 1992. Wow. How much fuel's in it? I don't know, because it's a Mopar. Okay, that gauge did work intermittently, and if I would wiggle the connections on the back, it would come back to life, but it's been dead for the last couple years. That's definitely on the list. You can probably tell just by listening it's not idling on all of the cylinders. It might be idling on 4. That's pretty common when one idle circuit gets clogged up, but the other one still works. Will it stay running though? Probably not. Maybe, almost. And even this is getting rusty. This poor car. I feel bad, okay? I feel bad. This thing used to be pretty nice. Well, kinda nice. This still smells pretty good, actually. Oh yeah, classic Wagon annoyance. Oh no! It's just missing a screw. It's not like that would be hard to fix. All right, it is at least mostly continuing to run. Oh, I forgot that exhaust pipe got bottomed out and flattened before we replaced the rear leaf springs. Huh. Yeah, it doesn't charge at idle, but that's a really low idle and not really a surprise. Huh. Actually, well, other than the horrible squeal, it sounds all right. Should I have checked the fluids before I started it? That's my bad. I've mentioned the rag trick a good few times on this channel. Last time I tried to explain it, I didn't correctly. So I'm going to show you what I do here. We'll see if it makes any difference on this, although, as mentioned, I'm pretty sure the real problem is gunk down in the main wells. We'll find that out later. Anyway, you rev the engine up, and then you close the choke, or block the air horn with a rag, or your hand can work in some cases. I forgot gloves. And what that'll do is generate a bunch of vacuum under the choke, and in some cases, it'll pull gunk through the air bleeds or whatever else, and it'll magically run better. So let's give that a shot. Now it'll probably try to stall when it comes back down, so you got to be ready for that too. You rev it up. Do that 2 or 3 times. I have got to fix that belt. That is horrible. Hey, what do you know? It's better. Smoothed out. Well, not 100%. But it picked the idle up a bit. The output voltage from the alternator is fluctuating all over the place at idle. It's 11, it's 14, it's 13, it's 11, it's 14, it's 10. It's not ideal. It's not that I actually think this battery is going to take a charge or anything. I mean, it's got to be junk by now. Even off idle, I can hear a miss. This thing's probably long overdue for a tune-up. Yeah, you can just kind of tell that's only 4 cylinders idling. As you run the screw in, it starts pulling a bit of fuel through the main circuits. It picks up considerably. One thing I'd really like to do is get correct valve covers on this, and that would include the clamp to keep the heater hoses off of the exhaust. Sounds all right. There's the smell though. Yeah, it smells rich actually. I only just noticed this Sears voltage regulator. I guarantee that's been on the car since the first time I saw it, well, a long time ago anyway. All right, time to get this pile running. I say pile, and it is one, but it does have some redeeming qualities. I'd love to do stuff with this Cherokee. Oh, come on. But no one ever watches my Jeep videos, so I probably won't. What an absolute unit. I love XJs. Anyway, have not tested the transmission at all yet, but I'm feeling confident. Yeah, all right. Just went right in gear. No problem. Don't die. Come on. I left the jump box in the Jeep. That might be a mistake. Whee! Yeah, the brakes are still really good, in case you were wondering. Not bad. Not bad at all. But there is a smell. It's just a motorhome engine. For some reason, the blower motor has only ever worked on this position. Not on high, which makes no sense. And not here. Only here. I'd like to fix that too. The radio, very dead for many years. There used to be an aftermarket stereo hanging here, and I'm actually not sure what happened to that. I think I finally did the delete on this stupid door speaker. It was right in the way of the window crank forever. Why couldn't they just moved it an inch that way? Anyway, but did the battery take a charge? No. Ugh, this poor thing needs the detailed job of a century. Let's talk to-do list, and then let's get started. We probably won't get far, but it's a nice idea. I know I mentioned all of the dash issues: gauges, gauge lights, a radio of some kind, and making the heater work would be really nice. This thing has never had working temperature control either. You have to reach up under the dash to change that. I'd like a cable, hooked to the temperature control. That would be really nice. Getting the gauges up and working again, definitely high up on the priority list. I actually have another set of gauges for spares if we need any of that. The rust hole. I have a patch panel for this, so I'd like to install it. My sister and I actually did a leak check on this car years ago, and we didn't see anything coming from the windshield, the door seals, nothing like that. The only leak appeared to come out of the heater box itself, and I think that's because the cowl input up there has some rust. Now that's pretty common. What usually happens is the cowl ends up jammed full of muck, tree garbage, etc. It can come up against that lip above the heater box, rust it out there, and then there's a path for water to just come down into the car. You can see the evidence there of dripping. Yeah, pretty sure that's it. So a cowl repair is in our future. That'll also involve removing the heater box to access it. Hopefully we can do all that from inside the car, because I don't want to take the exterior cowl panel off. That just seems like a bad idea. This might even be a big glob of silicone type fix. We'll just have to see what it looks like. I certainly don't want to patch the floor just to have it become a hole again in the near future. Once the floor is patched, we need some carpet. I bought brand new carpet for this thing for a Christmas present for Mrs. Jamie like 2 Christmases ago. It's been in the shop ever since. Seat upholstery. This one's going to be a little tricky because they do not make new covers for sedans and wagons. They do for two-door hardtop, folding bench seats, but not for these things. So this is probably going to have to go to a local upholsterer and be made by hand. The back seat used to be perfect. I'm guessing this is probably from Kid's Seat. I don't know. But anyway, the back seat needs it too, so at least we can get them done to match. The sun fading's pretty terrible too. I swear this back seat used to be really, really nice. It still is, like, right here. Have I pointed out the roof rack yet? How nifty is that? The whole point of the wagon is to be able to pile stuff in it. And to that end, the back door kind of needs to work. Unfortunately, like 2 years ago, not long after we got this thing back, this driver's side hinge cracked. It's just totally broken. The whole door is sitting out a little bit. It can't be opened. I say hinge, but actually I think it's that stud right there. So that'll be fun. I'm sure I can figure something out, but first I have to get it open and then get the whole hatch off. There are little boo-boos on every corner of this thing. I assume that's because Grandma didn't stop driving when she should have. And this is a big car, so it had meetings with all sorts of immovable objects. Seriously, every corner is messed up. But quite obviously, this passenger fender and bumper situation is the worst of it. I've been collecting parts to fix this forever. I actually found a new fender many years ago, and then we sold that to Mike, who had it painted to match the car. So, of course, when we install that, it will be the nicest thing on it. Luckily, I've left it outside seasoning and getting dinged up for a few years, so it should be a better match at this point. I also magically found a decent grill. Now, it's not amazing, but it does have a headlight bezel that's worth using. And that's important because once the fender is on, that crinkled bezel is not going on there. It physically can't, and it would look like garbage. My big problem is the bumper. I've been searching for years for a replacement bumper. I have almost bought 3 entire cars to get a front bumper for this one, and it's just never worked out. As you can probably tell, once I put a shiny new fender on here that is not bashed, this bumper will no longer fit. I might try and straighten it, but I don't have much faith in that working. I have found a few that I could buy. Most of them are in Ohio for some reason. I don't know what that's about. I found one in Eastern Washington. That's only a 10-hour round trip, so that could happen. For now, I don't have a bumper. I've actually been putting off this project, getting this thing running again and moving it over to the shop to start on all this stuff, trying to get a front bumper. But at a certain point, it just, it can't sit any longer. The whole car is not going to get painted. You can probably tell by certain areas like the roof that it does clean up decently enough. I don't know, we might consider touch up for the notable crusty spots, but probably not. You know, I think that kind of thing just makes it look worse. We'll get this thing cleaned up and see what we're dealing with. Someday, and I mean 20 years from now, I'd love to have this thing straightened out and painted correctly, but we are very, very far from that. And it'll be perfectly enjoyable, just cleaned. Have you ever noticed we kind of have a thing for white Mopars around here? I truly don't know what that's about. Oh, I would like to fix this folding panel thing on the back of the back seat. It's been goofed up forever. The latch is just permanently unlatched. The seat does fold down, which is cool. We've camped in here a few times. It's not bad. Except for hitting your head, of course. Ah, right. It should have bolts with shoulders, and then this folds down automatically, and when you flip it up, that latches to that. I get it. That can't be hard to fix. The biggest bummer of all of this might be that headliner. I mean, it's always been a little saggy, but it's getting bad. I'll try and clean this up, I guess, but yeah, it's pretty depressing. I think it's actually pretty easy to pull the panels down. Maybe I could try and flatten them. I could back them with something, reinforce them. A good few things need to happen here under the hood, as mentioned. I have to clean all this. It's terrible. I might have to freshen up the paint on the engine too. I'd really like to find correct accessories for this thing. Oh, quick sidebar. This is an aluminum Dodge truck radiator from the 80s, and it fits in the B-body perfectly. If you need one, check that out. Well, okay, I say perfectly. It is actually too wide for this 22-inch opening. I know I said something about a squealing alternator belt, but it's this one. You know, the one that's hot and slips and the pulley really bad. So I guess we'll get a power steering belt. Thankfully, as mentioned, the suspension is good to go. We overhauled the entire front end in, recent memory anyway. I changed the rear leaf springs. It's pretty much good to go in the running gear department. That's the good news. We'll go ahead and put wiper blades on the list, I guess. They've got to be the correct style, though. These are probably Trico Classics. That's usually what we go for. Heck, I could just do refills. Why is the lighting harness down here? That's weird. It should be up here. There are a lot of little detail things to deal with. One way or another, I want this thing to be nice enough that it could conceivably go to a car show and not get laughed at. We'll work our way there eventually. First and foremost, however, before it starts raining on my head again, I think it's time to wash this thing, which I've already done on video once. I think that was the last time it got washed. No, that was definitely the last time it got washed. I guess next on our Front Yard Revival series will be Mitch's Newport. That's long overdue. Yeah, I started that video a year and a half ago. I don't want to talk about it. Speaking of Ryan with McLovin Garage, he actually just messaged me. I mentioned I revived this thing, and he asked, does it have a tow hitch? Because it would be super cool to see that thing towing things around. No, it does not, but I could probably fix that. Yeah, I probably could. I've thought about this in the past, of course. This 440 used to move a giant motorhome around. It's got enough torque to drag this thing and anything else on a trailer behind it, no problem. Hey, remind me to replace this stupid sprayer. It gets me as wet as the thing I'm trying to spray. Ugh. You know, I think we've probably all made jokes about the ran when parked guys. There was nothing wrong with it when I parked it out there. All I'm saying is, it's easier to do than I always thought. It's amazing how fast things go to crap. I need to wash faster. My wife will be home any minute. Hey, if you like my music, which I often perform in my live streams on Sunday, you can check out my old band, Whitewood Funk. Those poor stickers seen better days, but our album, which is still on Bandcamp, sounds just as good as it did the day we released it. And no, it's not a funk band. We'll just start with the part she'll see first. Oh yeah, we've had many compliments on the Sun O sticker over the years. I've never actually listened to the band, but I am partial to Sun amplifiers. Oh yeah. The satisfaction level is off the chart. Did you know modern parts suck? This gas cap isn't even 2 years old. Dude. The gas leakage thing actually lifted the paint. I mean, I'm not surprised, it's gasoline. I'm just saying, you see this all the time and usually there's still paint there. The trim is gross too. Shocking. You know, for such a straight, square car, a lot of details back here, like 4 different trim lines. The spot I always miss is this. It's tricky. All right, good start. Really glad I resisted the strong temptation to steal this almost perfect back bumper for my 66 Charger years ago. So it's still here. The amount of scun stuck under the roof rack rails, pretty impressive actually. Seriously, gotta get that stuff out or it'll turn into a rust spot eventually, and that would not be good. You can't just go buy a wagon roof. Oops, not done yet. Did you know these are not small cars? Give me another like 10 hours and we'll have this whole thing looking pretty good. All right, well, I mean, it's better, just don't look here. Transmission might be a bit low. Shocking. Well, it's hours later and it's dark, so I guess this is gonna be a later thing. At least it's out of the bushes and it looks way better. That's a good start. Frogs. Yay! Well, it's weeks later, and the wagon's in the shop. Now, the unfortunate truth is I have way better things to do than work on this right now, but I feel like I need to accomplish something, you know? Just something. I can't just leave this poor thing broken and sitting around forever. So, first thing we need to do, if I can find the thingy, is unscrew the carburetor so it runs happily on 8 cylinders again. Okay, actually, the first thing is this, because this thing's just gross. It's horrible. Sad. So, let's uncouple it a little. Oh, God! The yellow spiders! Ah! Get the torch. In case you thought I was joking, I was not. I'm deadly serious about these friggin' things not existing anymore. Not in my shop, not on my watch. Okay, where was I? Somewhere over here, I think. This is not the first time I've done this, by the way. But it's been a while. Oh, I missed one. Die. Just die. Oh, yeah. Super Clean's the best, but careful what you use it on. It does like to eat paint. Learned that the hard way a couple times. Yeah, needs more. This is your bi-weekly reminder to not breathe Super Clean. Super bad for you. I mean, does something, but it doesn't delete the rust patches. Ugh. Ugh. Yeah, I'm having flashbacks to the last time I did this. All right, man, it's getting pretty good in places. That is some tough scunge. What a pain. The raining chunks are great too. Plenty of them. And I thought breathing it was bad. Definitely don't get it in your eyes. I don't know what this grime is made of. I mean, I assume it's just oil and dirt, but it is resilient. I've been over all of those clean areas like 4 or 5 times, and they're still streaky and terrible. Anyway, I've pretty much had enough fun. I do need to hit the firewall because that's just embarrassing, but you know what? It's better. I am not the guy for this. Looking at brake components while cleaning got me wondering, have I shared the story of that time my wife lost brakes in this car and had to go over a curb and park it in a bush? It was that fender that went in the bush, so You know, it didn't do any damage, but even if it did, how would anyone ever know? Yeah, I'm throwing in the blue towel on this one. I'm very bored. And no one could say that isn't a big improvement. Well, they could say it, but they'd be wrong. Edelbrock carburetors and idling. Common issue. Something I've had to do on this thing almost yearly since we got it back is remove the top of this carburetor and blow out a bunch of horrible crud that gathers in there when it sits. Another trick I often use is pulling the idle screws and blowing air through there. I just know, judging by the way this thing's looking on the outside now, that it's time to go in there again. Yeah, for the record, this was a brand new 750 we installed on this car. But that was like, 7 years ago? 6? I don't even know. I pulled the PCV hose because it got all swollen and horrible and replaced it with this cap, and this cap has now been chewed on by a critter, and I find that really entertaining. I've shown how to pop the top on a Carter Edelbrock carburetor plenty of times on the channel, so I'll spare you the details. Torque screwdriver, pull the needles out first, smack the lid with a screwdriver handle. It'll come off and we'll be at it. Well, it's not as bad as previous years, but there you go. There's the horrible goop. And I really don't know what that is, but I know it ends up looking like sand and gathering in the bottom of the bowls. Now, funny enough, just yesterday, Uncle Tony did a great video about a common problem on these carburetors, which causes the same kind of thing. It'll basically only idle on one side. One idle circuit will end up not feeding fuel at all. And the problem he showed came down to these tubes being all clogged up. Obviously, it's something he's seen many times. This is not what I normally see. What I normally see is this horror in the bowl. Now, there's an interesting note here. The idle fuel for the idle circuit is pulled out of the wells below the main jets. So, if a bunch of this gunk ends up plugging the main jets in the areas below, you can lose idle fuel that way as well. Here's a look at that crap that gathers in the bowl. I don't know, maybe it's actual sand. Maybe it's corroded bits of the inside of the Edelbrock. Maybe it's chunks of gas tank, although it's not rusty looking. Maybe it's stuff that's suspended in the ethanol fuel and turns to crystals. I don't know, but I know it keeps happening on this car when it sits, which it does a lot. I've shown this many times, but my other super trick is to take some carb cleaner or compressed air and blow it into the idle hole. And I'm running out of the magic stuff. Anyway, you want to see it free wheelie out the top. Ah, we're out of the magic juice. Really? Totally different can, also empty. Yay. Yay again. Oh yeah, just get gas everywhere. Perfect. Whoever installed this carburetor left a screw out. It was me. I did it. Me. The big fix in the very last video I did on this car was changing out the carb spacer adapter thingy. It used to have one of those phenolic combination spacers, you know, aluminum on the outside, but phenolic in the middle. And for whatever reason, that thing did not seal like even a little bit. This car had a humongous vacuum leak for years. So I put this random one in from my collection and it works great. It's just missing a bolt, but I'd hate to mess with a good thing. All right, I did something wrong. I don't know what, but something. And I'm sure of that because I didn't lose any of the Jesus clips on this thing. That's pretty much unheard of for me. Yes, I'm gonna tighten the clamp. Wow, it's somehow worse, but now it's fixed. And it's perfect. Well, almost. And it runs great again. Maybe it needs more pump. Okay, that's weird. Previously, I had set the idle screws to 1 turn, so I put them back there. But now it likes 1.5 turns. It likes 2 turns even more. Well, I've fiddled with this some more. The idle screws are now at 2.5 turns, and it runs better than ever. Yes, I did suspect giant vacuum leak. I don't think that's it. Well, maybe. Doesn't smell rich back here at all. Seems really happy. While it was off, I did scuff and shoot the air cleaner lid. That was just embarrassing. I need to clean the entire engine, and I want to do some touch-up paint. I want to change a lot of things. But listen, it's getting better. Hey, that's not good. That's transmission fluid. Why did I use EFI clamps for that? Not at all uncommon to find these clamps loosening a bit as the rubber hose shrinks and does its thing. I'll snug them up and it'll be fine. For now. It's a hood latch. And it's happy to see ya. Why do we not have the body ground here? Anyway, battery held down. That strap piece was like an improvised battery hold down I found in the inner fender of the ramp truck. Not my favorite thing, but it does work. Need to cut off the studs. Unfortunately, I'm very rapidly running out of time for this. There's one more thing I'd really like to do before taking it for an actual test drive. The squealing belt is the absolute worst thing of ever. Now this is a 7485. It's a 48.5-inch belt. Now, nominally, I think the actual length is slightly different than that, but that's Gates' numbering scheme, standard belt numbering. Anyway, as you can see, this adjustment slot maxed out. This cannot be tightened anymore. You can tell this belt's been squealing forever. By the way, it's all worn down and skinny and horrible, and there's belt debris everywhere. So I went digging around in my collection. I found a 7460. That's a pretty common Mopar size. Unfortunately, that's 2.5 inches shorter, and 2.5 inches to a V-belt is a lot. We'll see if it works. If it doesn't, I don't know. I'll keep digging. And if I don't find one, I guess I'll just put this back on. Yeah, there's your 7460. Like I said, 2.5 inches is a lot. We need like a 7475. Best I can do is 7480. But hey, at least I got that. It is a 1/2 inch shorter, so we should be in the realm of workability. Let's find out. Well, this is absolute nonsense. 1/2 inch shorter belt, and it barely went on there by rolling it into place. Well, anyway, hopefully it doesn't squeal. All right, I really need a win here. Give me no squeals and fluid staying in the cooling lines. Yes! So far, it's okay. I even took a minute and aired up the tires. This is getting real good. Let's go for a drive. Like really fast, because it's dinner time, allegedly. Did I mention this thing is totally full of like 1.5-year-old gas? I don't know why it stumbled. I was going to put the accelerator pump back up to the full chooch position, which is where it was when I started, but I decided that probably wasn't necessary. It's necessary. Still go straight down the road. Yeah. Needs more pumpy. It might not even work. I just remembered this car doesn't have turn signals. I should probably do something about that. Oh, that hesitation is gonna get old. Shifted to second pretty quick. I think I need to adjust the kickdown cable. But it's pretty good. Now that I'm driving it again, I'm remembering there's been kind of a dry sound back there for a long time. You're not going to get a good sense of this from that angle, but this thing is a handling machine. It's so good. Might need to back off the timing a little bit because I'm pretty sure it's pinging. It's really fun, I'm telling you. This car is awesome. Almost stopped. Squeaky brakes. It's like garbage all over again. What is wrong with people? I love this car. Always have, always will. There is just something so entertaining about pitching what must be a 4,000-pound station wagon into corners like that. It is ridiculously fun, and as you can see, it holds the road. That is the magic of the giant tubular sway bar. That is the best upgrade you can do to one of these Mopars. It works very well. Of course, the firm feel steering box, also good. I can't remember if we upgraded torsion bars in this thing or not. I would like to put a rear bar on it. Yeah, for no other reason than, I don't know, I think I should. It doesn't really seem like it needs it, but yeah, it can only get better, right? I can confidently say this thing is running better than it ever has since the first time I saw it. The poly was never good, like ever. And this 440 has been a little grumpy ever since it went in the car. First the vacuum leak thing, and then all the carb getting crudded up every year. I don't even know, but I can tell you right now, it is running great. It needs more accelerator pump, as you heard, but it's running great. It's not that it's the most amazing power plant in the world, but there is something magical about these motorhome 440s. They're low compression. The horsepower number is embarrassing, but the torque, oh, the torque. As I've discussed, there is a lot more this car needs, and I'm gonna get to it. I'm not abandoning this project. We're gonna get this stuff fixed up. I'm gonna make this car awesome again. Unfortunately, I'm kind of on my way to Tennessee for like a week and a half and 3 days, so it's gonna be a while till we see any more progress on this car. At least it's out of the bushes, and it's clean, and it runs nice again. That's awesome. Mrs. Jamie could probably even drive it. Oh no! Everything fell down. My phone, the mirror, and the throttle stuck slightly, so that's weird. It's still stuck. And it didn't do a burnout. And it pinged. What an embarrassment. After all those nice things I said. So, obviously we need to tweak it. That's a really nice evening. Did I mention it's past dinner time? Oh. Throttle cables held in the plastic. Remind me to rework all of this. Oh, it also doesn't have an Edelbrock throttle adapter. Yeah, again, room for improvement. I'm so disappointed it didn't do a burnout. Not even one tire. Oh, the cable was holding the throttle open a little bit the whole time. Yep. Add it to the list. Dude, the throttle's stuck again. I'm done. It's not coming back. Screw this down before I break it. Oh, remind me to check the transmission fluid too. That would be really good. Yeah, this thing wants to party. It's not ideal at all. At least we're getting the rust knocked off the brakes. Okay, good times. Just picture it. The Barracuda on a car trailer behind that. Picture it with the sticky throttle fix though. It would be so good. Also, I've been teasing that for a really long time. I need to just do it. All right then. I guess I just won't hit the throttle. I should close the hood though. That's about it. We'll catch you in the next episode when we definitely fix the throttle, and then, I don't know, maybe check the transmission fluid, judging by how it banged into gear back there in the gravel. And then, you know, we'll do a bunch of other stuff too. Like, fix the back window, I hope. Anyway, until then, as ever, thanks for watching. And remember, with great stupidity comes very little responsibility. Cats. Moon. Race car.